did that to a T. And so he records for us this insight of what took place. And he goes back and he talks to the actual eyewitnesses. He interviews them. He says right at the outset of his letters, here's what I'm going to do. I went back and made a systematic study of all of these events to document whether this was true or not. And so in the book of Acts, the second book that he wrote, he records the story that takes place 50 days after Jesus is raised from the dead. It's a day that the Jews celebrate that's called Pentecost. Pentecost just means 50 days. So this was 50 days after the Passover. And Jews from all over the world would come to Jerusalem and they would celebrate this. And they were going about their business in Jerusalem, but something amazing began to happen. These people that were traveling from around the world, they began to stop and listen because they heard people praising God, but not praising God in the language that was spoken there in Jerusalem, but praising God in the languages that came from their home country, from where they were visiting. And they began to move towards this sound to try to figure out what was going on. And what was happening was that the followers of Jesus were praising God under the influence of the Holy Spirit, and they were using these languages that they'd never studied. And this crowd gathers around. And so Peter, one of Jesus' followers, he stands up and he addresses the group. And this is in Acts chapter 2. He says, "Fellow Jews and all of you who live in Jerusalem." He recognized in the audience, he had people that were right there from Jerusalem, and he had people that had traveled all around the world to be there. And he said, let me explain to you what is happening. And he makes this statement. He says, "Men of Israel, listen to this." He says, "Jesus of Nazareth." Now it's interesting and very noteworthy that he pinpoints where Jesus' hometown was. Jesus of Nazareth. You know, if we move a lot more recent in history, I'm sure that a lot of you have heard of a guy that we refer to as King Arthur, known as Knights of the Round Table and Camelot. Do you know that historians today, they can't agree on whether his name was really Arthur or not? They don't know when he was born. They don't know where he was born. They don't know who his parents were. It ends up being just a cobbled together bunch of different stories that create this legend of Arthur. But here's Peter saying specifically, Jesus of Nazareth. You could go back to his hometown. You could talk to his brothers and sisters. You could talk to his next door